Well, hey, everybody, welcome to today's episode of I Don't Care with me, Dr. Kevin Stevenson. As always, appreciate you joining me. And today's guest is Shar Broumand. And I don't want to limit Shar to just, what we're going to talk about because he's done so many different things. First of all, Shar, welcome to I Don't Care.
Thank you, Kevin. Happy to be here.
Great to have you on. And I think I'm just going to let Shar tell you what all he's done. We're going to get to zero hiring, but Shar's got a really storied career and a lot of great experience that I'd love to touch on first. But we really want to talk about zero hiring, and that's he's built the world's leading AI recruitment platform. All of us have issues with staffing these days, but I think Shar and his folks have developed a really interesting solution to that. So Shar, tell my audience a little bit about you and about some of the things that you've done in your career before we get to zero hiring.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Yes, I'm very happy to be here talking to you and your audience. One of the things I noticed about your podcast is how long you've been doing it and how long your audience has been following you. So thank you for having me. Just a quick introduction. I guess where would I start? I'm an immigrant. I a double immigrant or a triple immigrant, depending on how many stops you want to count along the way. My family had fled the Middle East in the late 70s. We went to Europe, first in London, then Brussels. My dad really believed in education, and especially American education, American culture. Put myself and my brother through an American school. So I grew up very much like you. I, played football, homecoming, and all the good stuff. But I did it over there in Europe, and so I went off to college in Los Angeles, got my business degree, went to work in the consulting world, and pivoted to startups in the mid 90s. The internet was a new thing. There was this kind of nerdy looking guy selling books online. It was like a whole new thing. And for someone like me, a person who grew up as an immigrant over there, watching what was happening in the world, working with my clients on marketing and sales consulting projects, it was clear to me that there was things happening on both sides of the water and that I needed to get to the US. Mm-hmm. Like that's where my future was. So I pivoted and joined a small startup out of Pittsburgh, a tech company. Quite frankly, had no idea what these guys did. And when I interviewed with them, it became blatantly clear that they were from a completely different world. And here I am doing my best in this interview, learning. It's like they're supposed to interview me. I was the one that was like interviewing them to learn about what they did, right? And when I left after an entire day of 8 one-hour interviews each, right? Mm-hmm. I went home and I thought, God, if they make me an offer, I'm switching. I'm like, I wasn't super sure when I went in. By the time I got out of the interviews, I thought this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. And it was, let me tell you what it was. I didn't understand what they did. I had no idea after 8 hours. It was an internet business, procurement, sourcing business, not my world. It was like they were talking Chinese to me, right? But the people sold me. The excitement, the caliber of these guys flying over to Brussels. They were looking to hire 3 people to start a small office for one client that needed them in Europe, right? And I'm thinking, my God, these opportunities don't come along much. And I ended up getting an offer and joining. And after I joined, I kind of went to, the key recruitment, the key hiring managers, and I said, hey, why'd you hire me? Like, I have no idea what you guys do. And they're like, we don't know what we're doing. We want natural athletes. We looked at you as a person. We looked at your personality, your character. And, that I took that for years after that. It's all about people.
Yeah.
People is the most important thing. So I joined this company. It was a small startup out of Pittsburgh. We built it. We went through the ups and downs of a startup. It was a big risk for me to leave a very cushy consult. I was working for WPP's consulting arm in Belgium, and I was doing international studies, which was back then was a big deal. So I left kind of the cushy comfort of a secure pay, big organization job, and I joined this startup that gave me a ton of equity and a little salary to kind of like work twice as hard as I ever had in my life. And long story short is we were successful. We built a real business. We continued to grow and hire great people. We IPO'd in December of '99. We broke NASDAQ records. I think we were the third largest IPO in history at the time. Um, we were kind of like the talk of the town for about 3 months, and then the bubble burst in 2000. And it was funny because we just put our heads down and worked. We had a real business. We weren't some .com website with nothing behind it but hype. We had real customers, real work, and just put our heads down. Kind of worked all the way through the .com crash of the 2000s. And we built the business up to $250 million in revenue, sold ourselves to our main competitor, Ariba, where I continued. And years later, Ariba sold itself to SAP, and I kind of got after like over a decade journey, got my exit. And Ariba moved me to the US to build a brand new business for them. So I came to the US in in 05. I became a citizen in 2012. And long story short is, I ended up leaving kind of the corporate world, went back to like my true roots as an entrepreneur, building and investing in businesses. Infinity Constellation is our holding company that we launched and created 2.5 years ago. I'm a co-founding member of that. I CEO'd it at launch, and then we brought in a much better, younger, faster version of myself to run it. And I was always focused on the zero hiring business. It was one of our portfolio businesses that we started from scratch. Going back to what I said to you is the magic of free markets, the magic of companies that have had storied storied results. Take Zappos, who's a company that I'm very close to, and what Tony Hsieh achieved there prior to, unfortunately, his passing away at a very early age. Or you just look at other examples. I think you're seeing kind of what they're doing at companies like Palantir, and more recently with some of the hot startups that are out there today. Lovable is a great example. Invisible Technologies. These are companies who are built on culture. They're built on people. The importance of the magic of the business is not the product. It's not how smart they are with their solution, product market fit, et cetera. Those things are all great. Like they have to be. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. But the magic, the magic is what you can't define, right? The magic is what you can't touch, what you don't, what's the je ne sais quoi that makes it special? It's the people. And zero hiring set out to completely find a better way to solve what I call the recruitment problem, because recruitment is broken. And people in the industry will tell you this, people outside of the industry will tell you this, right? It's whether you're building an internal recruitment team that's going to handle all your recruitment needs, especially companies that have recruitment at scale, or whether you're using external agencies, external solutions and providers. Recruitment is broken. Recruitment is not fun. It's not sexy. It's not. It doesn't stand out. There's no one company or person that says I have no recruitment problems. We do, and it's not one thing. I'm not blaming recruiters. I'm not blaming the third party service providers. Nor am I pointing at any one thing. It's the nature of the beast, and we want to tackle that problem. So we built zero hiring first internally. Our kind of sister company, we were born inside of it. It was the company grew, from a few hundred people to about 6,000 people in like 18 months. And we handled that recruitment primarily internally with very little external help. And so we learned on the job, and we took what we learned, we packaged it and built it into our AI technology. The company that I'm referring to is Invisible Technologies. They're an AI uh, they're an AI services platform company that basically makes AI work inside of businesses. And so we were able to kind of take that and figure out, how do we do this for recruitment? How do we do it for anyone else, all companies? The problem's the same no matter who you speak to. And so we've spent the last kind of 2 years building Zero into what's become now an end-to-end AI process platform that brings together the technology, world-class process, and world-class people and expertise. Because at the end of the day, if there's one thing we've learned, we being, me and my partners and the folks that I've been in business with for, over 10 years now, um, we've been focused in AI. We've been at the center of the AI revolution. As I said, our sister company, Invisible Technologies, is the company that trained ChatGPT to bring it to market. It's the company that's trained other LLMs that are out there today. They're responsible for keeping the LLMs, sober and honest, right? So as far as like the answers go to their questions, so we've learned a lot about AI. And one thing we've learned is, without humans in the loop, AI is not going to be effective. AI is not going to change the world. It's not going to have the impact. And in some cases, it could actually do a lot of damage, right? Um, it's the humans in the loop. That's the key. And so that's the story that brings us to Zero hiring. That's kind of my background. Sorry, it took a little bit
No,
of
that's
time, but
great. No, no, I appreciate it because you speak to the fact that the hiring process is broken, and you're dead on, and it's throughout the process. It's everything from, that original sourcing of candidates to getting them in the pipeline to feedback to follow through. It's all broken, and all it does, it frustrates hiring managers, it frustrates candidates, and so what's Zero doing differently that that everybody keeps frankly screwing up?
so what's interesting is what you just described there is all the problematic areas,
Yeah.
right? That's all process, right?
Hmm.
So the first step of how you fix that, and by the way, what we're explaining to you is not rocket science. Like, this has
Yeah.
been, transformation consultants have been talking about this
Hmm.
kind of these principles for years. It's just, again, it's the approach that's different, and I'll get to that to answer your question.
Okay.
Um, you're talking about broken processes, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's the sourcing of candidates, whether it's, the process they go through to interview, to be screened, and then to interview, the feedback loop, which, let's face it, the lack of feedback loop
Yeah.
problem, right? Um, Never knowing why you don't get a call back, never knowing, even feedback on interviews. Like, recruiters have no time to call you back and say, yeah, the 3 interviews you did for that executive role, let alone, lower level roles, they're not giving you feedback. Like, why didn't I get the job? It came down to me and another person, and no call back, no response. And when you reach out after a few days and go, is there any feedback? Oh, sorry, they went with the other candidate. Well, okay, like, you just left me here in the dark, right? Worst experiences. That's all process. And you start by taking process and layering that process onto an AI platform, which we have built our own end-to-end recruitment AI platform. And that's a big deal. That's not something that happens overnight, even as fast as people are developing technology today and turning around apps in, like, less than an hour. You have to design and build this thing, and then you have to put it to usage test, high volume usage test, to make sure it works, because it's not the same thing as an app, right? It's not a consumer product. Um, so that's the process. The process gets layered on an AI process platform. Then what you need from there is, you need the humans in the loop. So we have expert recruiters. These expert recruiters had to unlearn how they did things manually and relearn how to do it, leveraging a process platform, right? An AI process platform that does a lot of the heavy lifting work for you, but needs at various steps of the process, needs the checks, needs the balances,
Sure.
needs them to intervene and make corrections or make decisions overriding the AI, right? And people
Mm-hmm.
are like, well, what's the point of that? Why does the AI have to be corrected or overridden? Well, if you understand anything about AI, it's not like software. You don't just implement it and turn it on, right? The AI gets
Mm-hmm.
better and better as it learns more, as it consumes more data, as it picks up on what you do. And more importantly, in what we're talking about, we deploy our platform inside of each customer, right? We embed ourselves in your organization. We embed ourselves with your recruitment team, with your HR team, if you have one. If you don't have one, we become the recruitment team, working again directly with your hiring managers and stakeholders in the business. And the more we work with you, the more the AI learns the intangibles, right? Your culture, your values, what you're looking for in people, what's different about what you're looking for in people versus other people. Like the AI is an artificial intelligence, but uh, just like humans, it learns and it gets better. And the more it does it, the more it can then do what AI does better than humanity, which is find shortcuts where we don't see them, right? And so the human in the loop is that layer. But again, now what makes this incredibly different from anyone I know out there, and I think that this is the change. In fact, this is what we've bet on across our portfolio of companies. I happen to be focused on
Mm-hmm.
recruitment, but we have companies that are focused on design. We have companies that help you hire your
Okay.
first AI employee. Um, we're in the finance space and the advisory space. Um, all of these businesses believe in one thing, which is that with an AI enabled service, right? The
Mm-hmm.
combination of AI and people, you're able to not only deliver a better outcome, but you're also able to deliver that outcome in a different model. So we don't charge traditional recruitment fees. We 20 to 30% is what third parties on average charge. Some charge a lot more. Very few charge less. But our price ranges, from 6% or less of annual salary and bonus, and that's just a marker that we give you as an indication. Once we have worked with you, either we do quick starts. We don't waste time on let's go collect a bunch of data with you and spend months trying to pry that out of your organization. We don't sit there and do this long, like, you know even this forward deployed engineer model that you're seeing in technology. It's great. I think it has a ton of value, but I'm not sure how much value you get by me and my team coming in and spending 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 12 weeks doing a bunch of mapping and consulting for you. We just go right to it. Hey, you want to test this out and you want to understand how we embed in your organization, how our technology is better than what humans do by themselves, how we're able to deliver a better outcome, how we're cheaper and faster. You want to know that? Let's pick a goal and let's do it. So it could be as little as, hey, I'm going to give you 3 to 5 roles right now to work on, and we'll go with the 6%. Great. We'll do the 6% model, and you pay us a portion of the 6% when we open the role. You pay us the rest of the 6% when we close the role. If we never close the role, if you never make that hire, you're not paying the other part of the fee, right? So the point is to make it all aligned to the outcome. Like we're aligned to go hire the best people for you. You make an offer and put them in the seat. Right? That's how we're paid, and you're aligned to help us make that happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we can't make that happen, then you're not on the hook for 6% of salary, let alone 20 to 30%, right? So there's an opportunity to change that model. And okay, with recruitment, it's not that big of a deal. Many tell me
Yeah.
in the medium to large companies, they tell me, it's not a big deal. I don't know. I don't agree with that mentality.
Yeah.
I think these are, it's easy to say that when it's not your money that you're spending, right? It's your company's or your
Right.
shareholders' money. I don't agree with that. But here's what's interesting. Think about it in the in the context of legal services. What do? You need a lawyer today. These guys are charging hundreds of dollars an hour, right? Depending on who you go, where you go to. You've got everything from your low, kind of like your ambulance chaser lawyers that might, charge less or work on contingency on contingency at like 40% plus, right? Or you've got your, top firms, top lawyers. They advertise themselves pretty good around the country. And when you're going to work with them, there's a retainer, it's thousands of dollars. There's an hourly rate that's like 400. There's no transparency on how much actual work did you do for me to get the outcome that I'm looking for. And by the way, the outcome's not guaranteed, right? So we might go to court and I might lose. What happens then, right? Who's paying all these fees? I mean, another broken model, if you ask me, one-sided, right? And you can talk about healthcare and how that works. You can go into even practices like consulting or your architects and designers that work on buildings or the amazing works that you see around the world. These models are what we call last century, right? These are old models. Everyone right now hearing this podcast who's in those businesses is laughing. They're laughing at me, right? And they're going to say, ha, 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 that's been tried. You're absolutely right. For years, we've been complaining about it. We've had no leverage as a market to say to you, you need to change, right? We do now. This is what AI process platforms, or what we call AI process platforms, essentially AI-enabled services, are helping change that. They're helping change that mindset. And it's going to be a slow change at the beginning that's going to ramp up, because we used to think 50 years from now, businesses like Accenture and IBM's global services and all these other big consulting, McKinsey and all these companies, we think they'll be out of business in 50 years. I fundamentally believe that their current models will absolutely die well in advance of that. Whether they die as companies, who knows? Like a lot of companies should be good at adapting and pivoting in order to survive. But the current model they have is dead. It's going to be dead in less than 50 years. That's my prediction. And, we can have, people will laugh today, but you'll see that change in the coming years.
Hey, no kidding. Okay, so let's get practical here. Okay, I'm running a hospital. I've got 5 nursing director positions that I need to get filled. I need an ED director. I need an ICU director. I need, let's say, labor and delivery, and a couple of med surge directors. Okay, I call you up and say, hey, Shar, I want to engage Zero Hiring to hire these 5 nursing directors. What does that look like?
Sure. So you've just scoped out the positions for so we of course agree a time frame. Probably for something like that, we would say 90 days. Of course, we plan to deliver less than that. I'm going to shamelessly plug us for a second. We're faster, better, and cheaper. I've already told you about the cheaper, where it's 6% or less. The faster is interesting. The faster is the time to hire metric, which every recruiter will tell you is the most important metric. The industry average across all industries is about 57 days. Nurse practitioners are going to be higher than that, not because it's harder to recruit them. It's just because there's less of them in the market, and especially geographically, right? So it'll take more than 57 days. Right now, across our customer base, we're running at under 20 days across all roles. Now, that means there's some roles are challenging. Some roles are going to be more. And we've done some really hard roles in the medical and healthcare space, and we've been quite successful. So the way that would work is I would just say to you, okay, each of those positions, 5 roles, we would assign one of our client services team members. They would they're experienced recruitment folk that will meet with you or your hiring managers, whoever it is, that can tell us the details of those 5 roles. We will help draft your job descriptions for you if you don't already have them. If you already have them, we'll review them If we see a way to improve, we will, and we'll recommend that. But essentially, your point of your account manager, your client services manager will scope those roles out. And one of those exercises will be to understand, what are you paying these people so we can calculate costs for you, right? And I'll just keep it simple in your example. Let's say each one of these roles pays 100 grand. That's 500 grand, right? For each role, if we're charging you 6% to pilot it, that means the fee for that to place that person is going to be $6,000. We would charge 50% of that at the beginning of our engagement. We'll send you a bill as soon as we start for 50% of all 5 of those roles, and we put our whole solution to work. We have a team of expert sourcers that are based out of the US, the UK, and the Philippines. They work round the clock to make sure our process runs smooth. We obviously leverage our technology, and then we go to work on the right job boards, again, which will vary by, in this case, we're talking healthcare, nursing. There's some very specific job boards out there that we would use. We would also obviously be impacted by the geography. Where is your hospital? I'm guessing it's in the middle of Texas, and it's not in Dallas or Houston or San Antonio, where, these are kind of major metro areas that are attractive to national candidates. But we would go to work on finding those candidates for you. And only when you make an offer on qualified candidates do we then close the role and charge you the remaining 50% of the fee, which this case would be $3,000. So long story short is, for a potential of 30 grand or a minimum of 15 grand, you can put us to work to source those candidates. Now, if you're overly focused on price and cost, I just gave you the answer, right?
Yeah.
But what you really should be focused on is the outcome. I need these 5 roles filled. These 5 roles are hard to fill. One of the things that I'm sure we will learn by working with you for 90 days, even if we are not successful, right? Even if we're not able to fill all 5 of those roles. Let's say we can only fill 3 out of the 5. Let's just give us a little bit better than 50% outcome, right? In that process, I have no doubt that we'll be coming back to you and saying, listen, yes, this is a one-time hire. You're hoping to bring these nurses here and keep them here for a long time. But let's take a look at what's going on in your space. Let's take a look at the reality of recruiting in your market, in your geography. And we're going to suggest a different tact here, right? It could be that you should be recruiting for those 5 nurse practitioner roles continuously all year round. You probably shouldn't be doing this on a project basis. Oh, we have an open head count. Let's go source, right? When it comes to nurses, I'm quite familiar with it for a couple of reasons. As you might know from my background, I didn't mention it to your audience. I also built a hospitality business in Las Vegas, and before your mind wanders, it's a cigar lounge business. So it's not your nighttime hospitality options that we have here. It's cigars. And in my cigar lounge, we have a lot of medical folk. We have a lot of nurse practitioners. We have doctors, people that own and have built hospitals, actually in Texas. I think I mentioned one of them to you prior. I'm quite familiar with it from that. And I'm also quite familiar because my daughter is a senior in high school and about to go to nursing school next year. In Pennsylvania. So learns a lot about that specific, market. And there's a shortage. And the shortage, you go to places like Boston, New York, Phoenix, Houston, etc. There's not really that much of a shortage. Like, it's easy to kind of attract people and fill those roles. But what does the rest of the country do, right? Like, what do the rest of the rural areas do? And so, there's an opportunity here, not just to recruit all year round, but to actually build a marketplace around those roles. And so we would explore that with you to figure out if it makes sense to do it and how we would do it, right? And so that becomes a potential development project. But let's just say you say, no, you know what, you're right. I want to keep these 5 roles open all year round, right? even after I fill it. So we've agreed 6%. You hire one for me, I pay you the 6%. But now I want you to open that role again and keep sourcing it. We would, again, assuming it's 6,000, we agree the rate, we would simply charge 50% of that and go back to sourcing. And we can keep that open as long as we need to keep it open, even if you're not looking to fill that role right now, or if it's just, we just say, yeah, you know what, this could take 180 days to get candidates in, but we're going to keep these roles open and actively source them. And people also don't realize, people outside of the recruitment world, keeping a role open doesn't mean you just post it on a job board and keep it there. There's actually some work that has to be done in order to, keep sourcing for that position, which we take. So again, from a cost perspective, I don't know how you beat that. That's a phenomenal thing. What's allowed us to do that, what's allowed is our process efficiency, our technology efficiency, and then combined with how we deploy our humans in an oversight role, right? We don't have people, making 80 calls a day in order to screen candidates. That's all automated. We have avatar technology that is remarkable. When you're talking to it you think you're talking to a human being, and that technology we're continuing to develop. It's getting better. It's getting more consistent. And in some research that we've undertaken recently, when we interviewed several hundred people in one specific market for a variety of roles, a portion of those people were interviewed by humans, a larger portion were interviewed by AI, and the feedback was really like surprising. The AI won. The people gave better scores and better ratings of the AI than they did the humans, which really surprised us because these were kind of complicated roles that we were testing, like trying to test to the max. But the feedback was very simple. The AI was just consistently good. It was whatever level it's performing at, it's consistent over and over again. Humans get tired, right? Humans' minds wander. They're creative. Humans are not robots, right? So they are going to be by nature inconsistent
Yeah.
in their interviews. And that came through in the scoring and the rating of the interviews by the candidates. So really exciting stuff
Yeah.
ahead for us.
Well, and something else too. Talking about utilizing the AI, and the longer that you're engaged with an organization, you're learning that organization. So, I would assume that you would be able to come back, in that consultative role and say, "Look, hey, we've tried to source from XYZ boards. That's not working. Why don't you look at maybe an international type situation?" Or, as is oftentimes the case, look, you're in a very difficult market. What you're paying is not attracting the quality of candidates. You're going to have to look at increasing your salary range. Am I right?
100%. I take it a little bit for granted, so I kind of skipped over all of that when I was explaining our business. We absolutely provide that data and feedback, and we're providing it in two tiers. We're providing it not just on market data that's out there that you can chat GPT yourself and get some great data. We're actually doing it on the work that we're doing across customers, right? And I can tell you that it's an interesting balance between holding the line at your standards that you're looking for, right, in a candidate versus broadening and being more flexible in order to attract more candidates, right? So that battle still continues today inside of organizations. Heads of talent acquisition will tell you that they're doing a great job and their teams are doing a great job, but the hiring managers, which in smaller companies are CEOs and founders, right, and in mid-size and large companies are very senior C-level people. You're essentially saying the boss is not is getting in the way of us delivering great candidates for whatever reason, right? And they're not wrong. They're not wrong with that. But the boss isn't wrong either by saying, if I'm going to hire a CFO, if I'm going to hire a doctor or a nurse, or if I'm going to hire a head of technology for my business, um, I need to not just rate them on skills, experience, ability. I also have to rate them on what they call their gut feel, right? Like what my gut tell. Do I connect with this person? Do I like this person? Would I go out for a beer with this person? Would I, can I relate to this person or not, right? And this becomes a factor. Well, what's interesting is we've built an amazing AI platform to manage the process end to end. In order to be able to do that, we've had to develop avatar technology that can interview candidates. And it's not just a one-way thing. It could be us talking right now and you stop me and ask me a question and the avatar answers. It's that level of intelligence that we're talking about, right? But beyond that, where we're focusing a lot of our development efforts and we're doing research, we actually have some research partners from the recruitment world that we're bringing in. We're open to take on more, by the way, if any of your listeners will talk about that. We're investing in being able to assess the intangibles, your emotional intelligence, right? Your character, your personality, your cultural fit to the organization that's hiring you. Quite frankly, your character, right? And we are looking to be able to score that in a predictability score that will help you understand what their chances of being successful in your world are. And your world's going to be unique. Like every company's different. Even two hospitals going after nurses are going to be completely different. So it's very important that we can kind of figure that out. And by the way, how do you do that? Not by making them sit down and take a test, which is what a lot of recruitment and hiring companies do today. They offer that as a extra service and they charge you a lot of money to have your candidate go through personality testing or psych testing or whatever, right? That's not the way. In our opinion, that's not the way to do it. The CIA, MI6, the Mossad, they have been doing this type of analysis on people for decades, and they've been doing it on 5-minute phone conversations, right? Voice analysis and movement analysis. So we are looking at exploring those, but we're in the world of HR, so we also want to be compliant, right? And we don't want to create like a non-compliant situation for you, the client, for us as the provider, when it comes to data privacy, when it comes to people's rights and on their information. So let's just say this is one of the exciting research projects we have in the lab right now that our head engineer Alan is leading, and we're working with clients to kind of figure that out. Because at the end of the day, I guarantee you, if you ask people that you go ask like Elon Musk or any of the top dogs in business, who what's made their recruitment successful for specific roles, they'll point to a recruiter. They'll say, I work with Jim Jonathan in London, in Los Angeles. I only work with Chris White in London. Like, those are the guys that when they go out and find candidates for me, what they bring back are the best of the best. It's not just because they know them from a network perspective. It's also their ability to interview, their ability to assess if you're going to be successful working with this client, this organization, that person that you're going to report to. That's a skill set that we are trying to bottle into our AI platform in the future. That's what we're going after,
Fascinating.
right?
Well, Shar, this has all been incredibly fascinating, and we've made a really interesting episode out of something that sometimes can be a little mundane. Honestly, But so if my audience, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, engage you guys, learn more about you, how can they do that?
Listen, the best way is if they go on our website, zerohiring.com, zero spelt out. The email address hello@zerohiring.com will get to me and my leadership team, and we can follow up that way. Otherwise, a better way, just because it'll tell me who you are and where you're coming from, is look me up on LinkedIn and make an invitation to connect, but make sure you put a note with your invite to connect and let me know. So it's Shar, Shar, my last name, Broumand, Broumand. That's what I am on LinkedIn. You'll see me smoking a cigar in the picture. If you send me an invite and just in your notes say, I heard you on Kevin Stevenson's podcast, I'll accept your invite and we can start a chat. Happy to answer questions, happy to help with any recruitment needs you have, or happy to just kind of talk technology and how the world is changing.
Now that sounds great. Well, we've certainly done that before this podcast, and I really enjoyed today. So folks, I hope you've enjoyed Shar Broumand as much as I have today. And thanks again for joining me on I Don't Care. I don't take it for granted that you have other things to do, and hopefully you get as much out of these as I get out of getting the information to you. So with that, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Take care.